Deep in the Himalayas, when the winter temperatures drop to -20 degrees Celsius, the landscape becomes entirely uninhabitable. Massive blizzards bury the valleys under meters of snow, freezing the rivers and stripping the mountains of any visible trace of human life. But look at this photograph. Hidden beneath that deadly winter snow is Badrinath. The bright yellow and red architecture of this temple draws nearly 3 million pilgrims in just a few months during the summer, packing the narrow mountain paths with a sea of devotees. That massive influx of humanity has a hard deadline. Every November, as the heavy snows approach, the head priests enact a strict closure protocol. They seal the heavy wooden doors of the sanctum, leaving behind only the Akan Jyoti, a massive oil lamp filled with enough ghee to last through the dark winter. Then an absolute evacuation begins. Every single priest, shopkeeper, and local resident completely abandons the town, descending thousands of feet to the lower altitude refuge of Joshimoth. For the next 6 months, Badrinath sits entirely empty, which presents a strange logistical mystery. Why build and maintain one of India's most important religious sites in an environment so hostile that its own caretakers have to flee from it every single year? The answer to that question lies in the cold itself. According to Puranic mythology, the freezing temperatures weren't a flaw in the landscape. They were the exact reason Lord Vishnu chose this specific valley. He sought out the harshest environment on Earth to perform an intense, world-sustaining meditation. The environment was so brutal that his consort, the goddess Lakshmi, physically shielded him. She transformed herself into a badri, a wild jujube tree, absorbing the punishing snow and wind for thousands of years so Vishnu could remain in uninterrupted focus. That sacrifice gave the site its name, Badrinath, the lord of the Badri tree. By the 8th century, the physical site had fallen into decline. During this period, the physical idol of the deity, a self-manifested black shallogram stone, slipped into the freezing, turbulent waters of the Alaknanda River, lost to history. It remained lost until a young traveling monk named Adi Shankara arrived. Relying on pure faith and inner vision, he dove into the icy currents of the Alaknanda, recovered the black stone, and revived the sanctuary. What makes Shankara's physical dive into glacial water so remarkable is his origin. This image shows the lush backwaters of Kerala, located on the deep tropical southern tip of India, over 2,000 miles away from the freezing peaks where he founded the temple. To ensure the purity of the rituals he established, Shankara made a strict decree. The head priest of Badrinath, known as the Rawal, can only be a celibate Nambudiri Brahmin drawn from his home state of Kerala. Only the Rawal is legally and spiritually permitted to touch the idol. This map illustrates the scale of that decree. For 1,200 continuous years, the administration of Badrinath has required an unbroken pipeline of priests, traversing the entire length of the subcontinent. It creates a permanent cultural bridge that literally links the tropical beaches of the deep south directly to the snowy peaks of the north. But bringing tropical priests and millions of lowland pilgrims into a high-altitude freeze requires physical adaptation. Right below the steps of the temple sits Tapt Kund, a natural hot water spring. Looking at this cross-section of the terrain, we can see the geological anomaly that makes human survival here possible. Deep underground, volcanic activity pushes sulfur-rich water up to the surface at a constant 45 to 55 degrees Celsius, bubbling up right beside the freezing glacial runoff of the Alaknanda River. Spiritually, Hindus believe this specific heat source is Lord Agni, the fire god, residing in the waters by divine command. Before the Rawal can perform his duties, and before any pilgrim can enter the sanctum, they must first submerge themselves in this boiling water. Tapt Kund operates as a literal survival mechanism. It physically shocks the human body into acclimating to the freezing mountain air, using a geological miracle of warmth to enable human devotion in an otherwise deadly landscape. As May arrives, the dense Himalayan snowpack finally begins to melt. The roads clear, the military opens the passes, and the 6 months of absolute isolation come to an end. The Rawal leads a massive procession back up the mountain. Along with millions of pilgrims, The shopkeepers and local staff return to a town that has been entirely frozen in time since November. When the heavy wooden doors of the sanctum are finally unlocked, local tradition holds that the temple was never truly empty. It is believed that while the humans were forced out by the cold, celestial beings, led by the ancient sage Narada, maintained the daily worship and rituals all winter long. And when the priests step inside the dark, freezing sanctum, they find the proof they are looking for. The Akam Jyoti, the oil flame they lit 6 months prior, is still burning. That single flame anchors a spiritual network spanning the entire length of India. From the Kerala priests who administer the rites to the millions of pilgrims who travel thousands of miles to bathe in volcanic springs, Badrinath unites the physical extremes of the subcontinent. The environment here forces everyone to leave, yet millions return the moment the snow melts. It is the ultimate monument to the endurance of faith, proving that devotion, much like the geothermal waters bubbling beneath the ice, refuses to freeze.